I was having sex.
Every time I take a sip.
And
You farted.
no.
Have you ever done that? During
Yeah.
sex? No.
During sex, probably. I think you like there's air that just like makes that sound.
It's a queef.
Yeah, but they don't know the difference. So last night, because I knew I had to come to LA today,
That's where we are.
I have it stacked seeing people, and I drove to our hometown yesterday.
Shout out, Redlands.
Yeah, stayed at my granny's house. Granny passed away in December. R.I.P. GG.
R.I.P.
You know what also I realized? Her birthday was 11/11.
I love that.
I know, it's
Gigi
really
was spiritual,
cute.
huh?
Right? Yeah, she was very
tapped in.
religious.
I think I might have met her like once, but I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, she's on point.
Yeah.
So was your grandpa, and I never even met him.
Oh
but
my gosh.
I feel like I
Jigger
met him
Jim.
through
Yeah,
you.
I am him reincarnated, literally. So I stayed at her house last night. My sister, unfortunately, she has 4 children. She's staying at that house because it's empty because Hurricane Helene has displaced her and her family.
And she just had a baby.
She has a newborn. She has a 1-year-old. She has a 2-year-old and an 18-year-old. 17-year-old. 18. I don't know. He's tall.
And she basically had to kind of...
Yeah, just get up and run, get up and
get
leave.
out.
And whatever they could carry on a plane. And they've lost all their personal belongings.
Ugh.
So I went to go see them last night and get some snuggles in, hold a baby that I didn't have to birth. And it was really cute. And it had me thinking like about honoring and having positive go back stories with our grandparents, like how I could walk through her house and I was like, oh, this reminds me of this Christmas. Oh, I remember when she made me that. Or I knew I haven't been there in forever and I knew where all the utensils were. Like it just was just super heartwarming. And then I thought like, what a nice little way to like have a podcast, maybe reach some baby boomers. And I know you had a really cool grandma, Nona. Very stylish lady. Very beautiful.
Nona, she also passed. R.I.P. Nona, R.I.P. Rosie. She passed right before Asher was born, and she also, it was
Full
just
circle of
after,
life.
yeah, and just after my uncle had passed, her eldest son, and she passed a couple months after that. And I remember we flew down for her, we were living in Northern California. We flew down here to Loma Linda for her funeral service, and I was super pregnant. It was the last flight I could take. And it was like the hottest day of the year. And her service was out in Orange County, because that's where she grew up. And it was like 115. And I'm like barefoot and pregnant, so pissed, so hot. Yeah. But she was also like, I don't think I appreciated my grandmother
Hindsight's
until
2020.
Oh my gosh. When I was young, she was kind of like, she was strict, like a little bit strict. And I always looked at that as like, oh, she's mean.
Yeah.
And then I got older and I just embraced her.
Bitch knew her boundaries.
Oh, 100%. And I just knew like at that point too, I was like, I don't have much time left with her.
Yeah.
My grandfather passed when I was really young and I didn't get a lot of memories with him. Both of my dad's parents were in Canada, Italian, broken English, didn't speak very much English. So I didn't have like a close relationship with them. Didn't make it to either of their funerals. Only saw them every few years for the holidays. And so my grandma was kind of it. And I was like, man, if I don't embrace this time, not only am I going to turn into her and not know what's coming for me, but I also feel like I want to know her history and her stories. Yeah. Did you get a chance like before Gigi? Like, you were close with her though? Did you get a chance to really connect?
Yeah, we had a lot of, I would say we were close. We had a lot of heart-to-heart conversations. She was very unconditional in her love and support. You know, she believed in the greater good. She was a devout Catholic. She just, she had a lot of faith in life and in people. And it was a beautiful thing to see play out because she had a very rough start to life. Was not something I would wish on anyone. Why? My great-grandmother was dating men, and those men repeatedly sexually abused my grandmother and all her siblings. And it was a really dark cycle, and this was outside of Chicago. And eventually they all ran away when they were minors and got away and started their lives. And my grandma, she met my birth, like, not the grandpa I grew up with, but her husband. She met him, like, I believe at a Navy ball in Chicago. and got married and had kids. I want to say like 17, like super young, you know, because she was escaping, but she loved him. And
for that time, that was probably pretty typical.
Super
like
typical.
40s.
And then moved to California. Well, I think they moved to Panama. And then they moved to California. And then when my mom and her 2 siblings were all toddlers and minor children, they were in a car accident. And my grandmother, I think, broke both of her hips. And then my grandpa died.
In the car accident?
In the car accident.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So your mom's birth
dad died, I want to say when she was like 5 on Thanksgiving.
Oh my.
Like really like
a
super bad.
Really sad start to a
so
movie.
So sad.
Oh my
but
gosh.
then my grandma like was a hard fucking ass. Like, oh my gosh. She was a single mom to 3 kids. I think she went to like receptionist school or something, became a receptionist at a school. Then she became a drug and alcohol counselor, an advocate. And and just like really was the matriarch of our family. She married my grandpa, his family owned a business of restaurants, and he did really well for himself. And literally they went from a trailer park to like a pretty well off situation. And yeah, my grandma, I have so many memories, like you said, of like thinking, oh my gosh, this lady is fucking crazy. Like, I don't even want to look her. Bitch. Yeah, I don't want to look her in the eye. I'll never forget one time she made French toast and it was still like eggy.
Ew.
And she made me, I couldn't get off the table
until
I ate it. And I like was crying and eating it. And like, I have such respect for that now. You know what I mean? Like,
they're
just
probably
that,
turning in their graves right now to the gentle parenting ways that we're like, it's fine, honey.
Oh my gosh.
Listen to your body. You don't want to finish your meal. You don't have to. Like, I am guilty
of that. You will not eat for 3 days if you don't like my cooking. There's no other options.
Like, I definitely force food on, not in the bad, like, forced way, but I'm like, no, you asked for that, you're going to eat it, or at least most of it.
Yeah.
And if you say you're full, that's fine. Listen to your body, get up and walk away, but you're not having another goddamn thing until you go back and finish those carrots. Like, I'm a little more, not so much gentle parenting, but I definitely abide by the rules of like, listen to your body, don't force yourself to eat. Because I feel like growing up in an Italian family,
like finish
was like,
your plate.
Manja, have a second helping or you're a disgrace. So I don't want to force feed my kid.
Yeah, and you don't want to like, I have daughters, so I never want to give complex around food. So I don't like, I really try not to say anything at all about anything. So yeah, I was very close to my grandmother, loved her a lot. She passed away in December. I had a really good conversation with her before she kind of really rapidly declined and went into hospice. But I almost wish I had one more. Like, I just wish I had one more conversation. I feel like I didn't get enough closure. But in my healing journey, I did this therapy session with a woman, and she was basically a medium. And we sat like this. I was in one chair, she was in another chair. Have never met her before. Didn't tell her jack shit about me except for my name. Nothing. I sat there. She like read me my whole life story.
Just staring at
just
you.
Staring
being in your
at
energy.
Me. Just being in my energy and telling me everything. I cried the whole time. And I have been like in a situation.
Very rare for
you. Yeah.
You.
Like, I actually went driving this weekend and I put on sad music and I was like, let it out, Ruby. Fucking let it out.
Did you?
No, there's nothing.
You could not tap the well.
I needed to let
Your
go.
body needs to release the fluids.
Yeah, I feel that. So I was looking at it for this and I got it from this. And at the end of it, she's like, do you know a lady with loves flowers? And I'm like, oh my God, Gigi. So every time I visited Gigi from the age of 5 till her funeral, I did her flowers at her funeral from her yard. I would always pick flowers for her and make her a bouquet. And she said, there's a woman here and she's handing you a bouquet of flowers.
That gives me chills.
I know. And that gave me a lot of closure. And she's like, she's your number one fan. She's your guardian angel. She's really proud of you, of like how far you've come. And I'm just like, okay. That's really awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still sort of waiting for that moment of like remembrance, but at the same time, in the later part of my grandma's life.
Are you crying a little bit?
Well, God, you sound like my therapist. Oh, I see you're getting emotional. Yeah. Do you want to talk about it? No, Sue, I don't want to talk about it, okay? I want to just suck it up. Susie. Oh, shout out. Love you, Dr. Suze. Yeah, that shit pulls on my heartstrings, Rube.
It pulled on mine too.
Anything that's like a tap into the other side, the other dimension, religious beliefs aside, whatever you believe, you have for now the power to. But like, I just feel like it
gives you hope. Like it all, there's something to it. You know what I mean? This isn't a waste.
Bigger than us.
Yeah, this isn't a waste.
This isn't a waste. There's something beyond us, beyond the ether, something greater than us. There's hope. And I just feel like my grandma used to sit in the later part of her life. Mm-hmm. She walked every single day. She died at 90. She would have been 96 at her next birthday.
Yeah.
95, 96. And she lived a long life. She was completely coherent up until her last days. Mm-hmm. Her hearing was going. Her sight was there. Brain was functioning. Mm-hmm. She would go on walks around the block, very slow, but she'd go on walks with her walker almost every single day. She would get up. She would put on lipstick. She'd put on a neck scarf and earrings or clip-ons. Like
accessories galore.
Oh, she showed up and showed out no matter what. Mm-hmm. As she got older and as she stayed in more and more, obviously, like that didn't happen as much. But she was a queen.
That's so cool.
But she would sit in this big wicker chair facing out the window. And there was a bird feeder and there was a hummingbird feeder. And she would sit there and eat her breakfast. My mom would make her great breakfast every morning and sit it on her lap and her tray. And then she would watch the birds. And then she'd start talking about the birds. And she would talk about the hummingbirds. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, I gotta go. Okay. But now when I sit and I look out my window, I have a hummingbird feeder. And so many hummingbirds come, but it's one of those little nods that's like, oh, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if she's coming back as a hummingbird. I don't know if that's the sign, but I do feel connected to birds in a way that I haven't felt connected to anything. Yeah. And I actually saw a psychic medium one time in San Francisco, Felix, and he was amazing. My sister and I went. It was very expensive. So we like split the session, and obviously we have similar ancestors. She has a different mom, but we went and we were like, we'll have a reading. And he said to me, amongst many other things that were obviously correct and on point, he said, do you have a thing with birds? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, especially when you drive? And I'm like, yes.
The hawks?
Because I do. I see this like red-tailed hawk when I drive. I see them all the time driving out to your place. But when I see them, it's typically when I'm in some kind of like, I don't want to say dilemma, but like I'm in something. I'm in something and I need that reassurance. Usually I'm like driving, there's no music on, I'm just thinking, and then I'll look up and I'll see these birds. And he was like, those are your, I don't think he said spirit guide, but he said, those are your guides looking out for you. And he also told me not to text and drive. And I was like, great. Am I going to die? Like, what's going on? What are you not telling me, Felix? So anyway,
I love that.
Called that out. And I was like, yeah, I do have a thing with birds. And I didn't even realize it.
I like it. My grandpa said he was going to be a monarch butterfly when he died, for all of us to look for that. And then my grandma said she wanted to be the fat, furry bumblebee in the garden.
Love a fat, furry bumblebee.
I know, super cute. But I was thinking when you were saying this morning when I was on my way out here, I went to Starbucks and the code for the bathroom was my birthday.
Oh.
1989. Like, how weird. And then I got back on the freeway. The car in front of me was Grit and Grace. And I'm like, that's like so my vibe.
Grit and Grace.
Yeah. It was really cute. And those are like little signs.
Yeah. Holiday movie.
Those are like little signs, you just feel like very validated and like, oh, I'm on the right path. Like
I look for signs everywhere.
Yeah, I do too. And if you look for them, you'll find them. Okay, I have a couple questions to ask.
Okay.
In remembrance, I'll pick Gigi and you can pick Nona. Question number 1.
Hit me.
Inherited traits from Nona.
I like my coffee piping hot. Like a sucker. I hate cold coffee. I mean, I don't hate it if it's supposed to be cold. It's cold.
But you like a piping hot.
I drink my coffee fast because I want every sip to be hot. And I have a pretty strong palate for like hot things on my tongue. What about you?
Well, you said coffee and it made me immediately think of a cocktail. And I love a stiff drink.
And did Gigi?
Gigi loves a stiff
like
drink.
A whiskey or like a bourbon?
Yeah. No, like some Jameson.
Oh,
and I love it too.
Girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also my Gigi had I know this because I talked to her about it, an unfulfilled dream. She wanted to have a ranch and she wanted to have horses. And that is literally my dream. And I hope to one day fulfill that. And I feel like I inherited that. I call it Gigi's Ranch.
I love that.
I know.
You're like really, I feel like you're really good with the ancestral part of your life. Like you, that does not make sense, but like you are really,
I have a lot of honor in it.
you honor it, and
Yeah.
you are very loyal to kind of the ancestral path and the generational like, traditions.
Yeah.
And I think that that's pretty rare. I don't
It
know if you
is.
know, but like that's pretty
is.
rare, especially as the generations, like I'm not like that. I know
Yeah.
that. And I think it's pretty few and far that we meet people that
I
are
wear
that
my
way.
grandpa's bolo every time I go to court.
Oh, you do. You have a great picture of you.
I do.
Day of
Okay.
court.
Favorite memory. Thank you for saying that compliment. That meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate being seen.
You're an old soul.
I am an old soul.
You are. And you have a quick, sharp wit tongue. And it's like, I like I said, I never met your grandpa, but just from what you've shared with me and knowing you, I'm like, oh, he would have been.
Jigger Jim, the working girl's best friend.
He was probably a hoot.
I was meant to be an old man sitting shooting
At a bar.
the shit. Yep, at the bar.
With a trucker hat.
My happy place.
Yeah.
With a trucker hat and cowboy boots on.
And a whiskey or
And a whiskey and doing like hard labor, like with my hands.
Yes.
I would love that. And
I see that.
my best friend Julie right now is crying, and it is super sweet
Not
and endearing.
crying,
She
Theo.
has a tear, and it's very sweet. And it just, everybody should do a podcast with their childhood best friend. Okay. Favorite memory.
I have a good one.
Okay.
So my grandmother would tell it like it is. So we were there for Thanksgiving. This was probably maybe a couple years before she died. She always kind of would comment on my weight and like, oh, you're looking thin. And I was like, thank God, right?
Yeah.
At the time. Now that may not be the same, but she would always comment on my body or my makeup and I think it's, again, generational.
Yeah.
Like, right, beauty standards for them were much, much different. So my sister was there and we were having Thanksgiving, and she puts her, I just gotten there. She said hello. She put her arm around me, and she had shrunk as she got older. She put her arm around me, and I'm pretty short, but she was like at my waist, and she goes, oh, you're nice and hefty these days. Hefty. The bitch called me hefty. No, I'm sorry.
Like a trash bag.
Hardy.
Oh,
she
hard.
called me hardy. You're feeling
well-fed.
nice and hardy these days. Then she goes to my sister and she says, what do you do? My sister has tattoos, and at the time I didn't have my septum pierced. My sister did, and like, of course she had to comment on all the things. So she's like, I don't know why you girls feel the need to cover up your body that way and get all this tattoos. She would talk about the tattoos, and she said, back in my day, we just liked to be pretty. So we're hardy, we're not pretty.
Yeah.
We're like, and I was just thinking to myself, like, you just have to laugh because
you can't take it with a grain of salt.
So that was one of the things that comes to mind, just like her candidness and her like almost like lack of tact, just like saying whatever came to her mind.
Mine, my brother was in Detroit working, and my mom and my grandma and I went to go visit him while he was working in Detroit.
Was he playing in Detroit?
Yes,
Okay.
he was playing football. And we went, I have two memories. I will say he lived in this building. It was like an Airbnb before there were Airbnbs. My brother doesn't drink. Like I said, my grandmother drinks. And we went to the grocery store and we came back, and it's like kind of like in a high rise, and it's snowing and it's cold, and it's like it took a lot of effort to leave, and we're not from there. And my grandma buys a 6-pack.
Beer.
Okay. And then we get to my brother's place, and she's like, Kirsten, because she would call me my real name, Kirsten. And she go, Kirsten, can you go get me a beer? And I went and grabbed it. And she's like, shit, we need a can opener. And we look everywhere, and there's no can opener. And she goes, you're going to have to learn to do this with your teeth.
Oh, like a bottle opener.
Yeah, or bottle opener.
Oh, okay. I was like,
but she made me learn to do it with my teeth.
Party trick.
Super big. It was actually very useful for the later on years. I don't do that anymore because I'm an adult and responsible, and I have to pay for the dentist.
Oh my God.
So that was super funny, and I think about it every time. Like, oh my gosh, my grandmother was like, Kirsten, you're gonna have to learn to do this with your teeth because I'm not gonna go without my beer. I'm not gonna stare
How old
at
were
it.
you?
I was probably, oh my God, I don't know, 20, 21.
Okay, I was thinking you were like 10.
No.
And she's like, crack that beer open with your molars.
No. I was a young adult. And then my other thing, it was at the same trip, we had went to dinner, and we went to this super cute little quaint like bar, and they had like these wooden booths. And no one in my family really sees my grandma weak. She was literally the rock, you know?
Matriarch.
Yeah. And she completely let her walls down at this dinner, and she bawled crying. And she had some flashbacks from her childhood being at the snow and close to like Chicago. And to see her, like, the evolution of her life and see how hurt this little girl was and this trauma, and to allow us in on that was something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
That's powerful, because that's not something that I think our elders, I don't think it's something that they would find like
honorable, you know?
Yeah. I think that that's something that they hold close in terms of like a strong quality, to not show not show your softness, not show your weaknesses, or not show your cards, basically. Like, don't let them see you that way.
And it was like my brother, my aunt, or my brother, my mom, and I, we were all like all grabbing each other under the table. Like, it's like, this is really happening right now. Like, what do we fucking do?
Did it come out of nowhere?
It came out of fucking nowhere.
Like, she just started crying?
I think she was reading the menu, if I remember, and she just started, and she said stuff that I'll keep privately out of respect for her, but almost like she was back in a moment of trauma, and she just kept chanting some things.
Oh, that's sad.
And it was super sad, but super moving. And I was like so proud of her being my grandmother, and you know what a badass she is. I was very proud. Ooh. Okay. Didn't know we were going to get so deep.
I know. My God. Hurry, say a bad joke.
Something.
It's getting too serious. Just kidding.
What about best advice?
She never actually said, don't ever leave the house looking your best. But the way she showed up, and the way that she always left the house, even to just take her very slow walk around the block. She would get dressed. She would put on a scarf. She would put on lipstick, pearls, whatever. And she would go around and she'd talk to the neighbors. And also, you know what's something that she said to me that I took away, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Every morning she always had something to do. And I'm like, you're 95. You got nothing to do. Eat a cinnamon roll and have a good day.
Yeah.
And she would always have her glass of like tiny, tiny little glass of milk, like whole milk, half an orange, an egg, half a piece of like whole grain toast, coffee. Like, it was kind of the same all the time. Every once in a while she'd throw in a pancake or something. But she would always say, I would say, you know, every once in a while I'd mess with her. Say, no, what's the secret to life? Like, you live long, like you know, you have all your wits about you. You can see, you can hear. And she'd say, oh, well, I'm just not ready to go. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I've got too much to do. I'm just not ready to go yet. Wow. So obviously we were talking about death. She wasn't ready to go. She wasn't ready to leave. And I'd say, like, well, what do you mean? Like, what do you have to do today? And she's like, well, I've got to check the mail. I've got to go for a walk. I've got to, like, in her life every day, she found purpose. Yeah. She found a reason to extend another day. And I thought that was so interesting, because as I do more work on myself and my why and my purpose. Doesn't need to be so grandeur. Doesn't need to be this, I have to change the world with everything that I do. Yeah, that'd be great. But look at the pressure that comes with. Like, just make an impact. Even if we've talked about in past episodes, like, you say hi to somebody at the grocery store, you might make their day. You give somebody a smile and say, hey, everything's gonna be okay. Like, I think that can go a long way. And just her telling me, like, I've got a lot to do, when I knew she didn't, was like, you have purpose. And I truly do think she made the decision to leave when she did, because my grandfather had cancer and died when I was young. She never entertained like another relationship after that. And then when my uncle got sick, her eldest son, she didn't want to die. That's right. She didn't want to die. She didn't want to watch him die. She died 2 months before he did. He had brain cancer. He had a brain tumor. And she, I think, made the decision, like, I'm not going to watch my son die. Yeah, I need to go. And she was ready. And then, he died 2 months later. Like, that was like, I forgot about that. Like, but that's something that I feel like we have a lot of control and power over our life. Yeah. And that goes right along with it. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Really powerful. Thanks for making me think about that. You're welcome. What about you? Best advice? She was very forgiving of people.
everybody had a seat at her table, no matter what.
And a second chance.
Very patient heart, very forgiving heart. And I'm a very loyal person, so that could be hard for me to be forgiving towards people.
Snaps
Gigi
to
and
the
Nona.
gramps.
Okay.
Grams.
Should we like go on a fun note off?
Yeah, give it to me.
Favorite meal?
That hers? Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh. Oh, she used... wait, that I liked of hers or that she liked? Or that she would
Either.
make?
I'm thinking of what you liked.
She would make... So every year for Thanksgiving, right? It's typically traditionally same
Yeah.
meals. Everybody's making the same shit. She would make this Jell-O. It was like she made a Waldorf like Jell-O salad. And I'm not going to go on record and say I liked it, but it was her staple. She put maraschino cherries in it,
Wow.
walnuts, green Jell-O.
What was the lifespan on those
marshmallows.
things? I keep thinking of like National Lampoon's Christmas, you know?
Exactly.
That Jell-O.
That's exactly what it looked like. It must have
Yeah.
been the same recipe. But for some reason, I'm like, kind of miss the maraschino cherry Jell-O situation.
That's so funny.
I know.
Mine is a beef stew.
Oh,
I fucking love a beef stew.
Yeah.
With like turnips instead of potatoes, carrots, Worcestershire sauce, like a baguette, some
hungry.
butter. So good.
Sourdough.
Oh, so
Melted
good.
butter.
And really cute, like with my girl's dad, my ex-husband, when we moved back from Hawaii to California and we had Charlie and she was a newborn, she had made me my favorite meal, my beef stew. And
Your
she,
grandma?
yeah, and she made a date table for my ex-husband and I. I'm really sad that it was wasted on such a fucking petty little guy.
Yeah. I'm like, sucks that it was him.
I would love a redo. Yeah. But it was the gesture. I can still appreciate the memory, you know? And she like folded folded the napkins, like had wine and like, it was really sweet. It was super sweet.
So, we don't take the time to really talk about this shit.
This was really nice.
Yeah. And it's, as I get older and more sentimental, it's like, I started to interview my grandma before she was getting into the 90s. I would set up a camera and I would ask her questions and just let her riff. And I have those interviews still. And I, at one point, wanted to cut something together for my mom and her siblings. But it is interesting because she was talking about when she met my grandfather and, the war and meeting presidents.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just crazy.
Seeing my grandma saw Frank Sinatra sing. Like, it's crazy.
Just shit like that. We're like, dang, like
Living.
if you don't take the time to ask. It's actually my dad's birthday today and I need to call him. But I think about that too. I'm like, my dad, he's a musician. He traveled the world. He toured and he has some crazy stories. And I would kill to have gone through the 70s in the music scene like he got to. And I'm like, dang, I need to go sit down with the camera and just talk. Get him high and talk to Jimmy B.
That would be super cool. And something in honor of grandparents. My grandparents were really big on do it for the story. Do it for the memory.
Love that. Do it for the content. Do it for the what is it?
Do it for the gram. But like do it
But
for
in,
your
like,
turtlegram.
Do it really for yourself.
Yeah, for yourself to have this memory and be able to share stories. Julie, what a sweet conversation.
I didn't know you could do that.
That was actually a really good lesson. My grandma used to always say, like, don't give it all away. Like, always keep mysterious and always be making the decisions in a relationship, but let the man assume that he's making it, like, lay it up.
Gigi used to know how to manipulate.
She did.
I'm into it, Gigi.
Make them think they're wearing the pants, but actually you got the trousers on.
And the whiskey.
The whiskey.
Love that. Did you have a little segment you wanted to do?
Oh, I did.
A little seg?
I did.
Okay, Ruby wants to bring something.
Way to de-honor all the sweet things that we just did.
We got to keep it bitter.
In lieu of my grandma being Catholic, I thought we should do a bitter bitch confessional.
Bitter bitch confessions. All right, mine's not saucy.
Mine's funny and inappropriate.
Well, then you go first.
I was having sex.
Every time I take a sip.
And
you farted.
no.
Have you ever done that? During
Yeah.
sex? No.
During sex, probably. I think there's air that just like makes that sound.
That's a queef.
Yeah, but they don't know the difference.
Oh my God. Okay.
I don't know. I don't think I would be, I can't control that.
Oh, you should try.
I like to set the bar really low, so every day is a blessing from there on out. It's like an upgrade. No one
You were
farted in
having
front of me today.
sex,
I was having
and-
sex. And it's with someone that it's the first time we have this podcast out and someone's asking me about like what I'm doing. And they asked if I could share our podcast link.
Ooh.
Like, I thought it was like he was a guy and he really wasn't going to do it. Like,
Listen to it, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just thought maybe like, just like see if it's for real. Right.
Okay.
Well, apparently he did.
Listened.
Mm-hmm. And while we're hot and heavy, he goes, I don't see a hedgehog between your legs.
No. Oh my God.
And I like pee. I did not pee, but and then he started laughing. I was like, oh my God, you listened to that? That was like a deep, dark episode. I was pregnant and I was talking about how I can't shave my vagina.
You went
and
back
you
deep.
Bring it up during sex? I really like you.
You're perfect. Oh my God.
That's my confession.
My confession is not something I'm proud of. It's not saucy, but the other night I was putting Asher to bed and I had my phone with me, and normally I'll just cuddle him and like snuggle but he was taking a while to settle. Had my phone and I ended up on Instagram, as one does. And I have no idea how. I ended up on a young influencer. I ended up on Addison Rae's page. Okay. This Breezy is beautiful and very young and very, 30 plus million
Still
followers.
has collagen in her face.
Still has collagen she didn't pay for. Like, I'm kind of like just scrolling, just be like, I don't even know who this person is really and like what they're about and what they do. I think she used to dance on TikTok and now she's got like a movie career kind of. So I was just kind of browsing because she was like doing a show with Carly XCX, I don't know her name. And I was like, or Charlie, whatever. I was browsing and I found myself pretty deep in the hole of this girl's page.
In comparison.
And kind of, but also in my head thinking like, damn, like she is living. She's in her 20s probably. She's hot to trot, just living.
In demand.
Like out.
By mass consumption.
Just like the posts are very sexual and she's objectifying herself and she has every right to. Get it, girl. But I was like, I just can't imagine being back in my 20s and being obsessed with myself enough to like
make money off it.
Be posting like maybe I would. I have no idea, right? But I'm also like, what a life. Like,
yeah.
Get it. Like I was like sitting there thinking like, good for her. Like you are living. Hopefully, like it's not just that
a
for
facade.
Yeah, like hopefully it's not just that on the surface. But there was like a post and I read it and it said like currently obsessed, and then it was like my life, and I was like, I hope that's true.
Yeah, that's a good feeling. I've definitely had those feelings, but I know you've had those feelings before where you're like,
obsessed.
Shit's going right.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with my life.
Something's about to happen.
Yeah, like I love.
I'm pregnant.
Damn it, everything stops. But I was just like, I found myself for the first time in a really long time not comparing, because in my head, obviously, I'm like, there is no benefit to me comparing my life and my body and my worth to that of somebody in their 20s on top of the world, living this influencer dream, getting paid to party, all these things. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to like go down that rabbit hole. So I'm self-aware enough to not do that. But I also was in my head thinking, God, this is a waste of time as I scroll and click on picture after picture and watch videos. And I'm like, get off of the gram.
Yeah.
That's
a dangerous place.
Get off of the gram.
Yeah.
There
was a really
on
cute
TikTok and all that.
Yeah, corny quote. And it was like something like a flower doesn't compare its petals to another flower.
God, you're corny. I love it. Gigi would be proud.
Thank you. It's a little,
This has been fun.
Thanks. Till next time. I love you too.
See you next Tuesday, bitches.
Bitter bitch.